Hello human beings, Power Gamer here, and boy do I love bread. I just can't get enough of it. Why do you think I bought so much of it? There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that will stop me from loving bread.
We interrupt this program to bring you breaking news. A large supply of bread that has been shipped to a numerous amount of countries has been tainted with a mysterious substance.
Oh dear.
This mysterious substance has led to a numerous amount of side effects, including nausea, headaches, itchiness, temporary blindness, a craving for marshmallow fluff, and the loss of the right half of your body. As a result of this mess, the president of the bread company has issued this following statement.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Clark, CEO and founder of the bread company. I've worked hard to build my company, and I must issue a sincere apology to all those affected by our faulty shipment.
Well, he apologized, so that makes up for it.
As a way of further expressing our apology, we have gifted all of our customers a free Super Nintendo Entertainment System game.
Huh, well, that sure was nice of them. Well, I guess I might as well play it. I mean, it's not every day you buy a bunch of bread and as a result you get a free
Bubsy II, The Nightmare Continues. The sequel absolutely nobody wanted. Bubsy II is kinda interesting in that it often gets neglected. Of the original Bubsy games, this is the one that's brought up the least. The first one is talked about for being the first one. The Jaguar game is brought up because of how weird it is that it got released for the Jaguar, and go away! Go away! Go away! Go away! Go away! Go away! I'm sorry. This one, however, seems to get glossed over when people think about the series being garbage. Planning for the game started really early. It began a few months before the first game even released. I feel like you should at least finish the first game before starting a sequel, but I'm not a game developer, so what do I know? There were multiple ideas given for the game's plot, but interestingly, none of them involved the antagonist from the first game, which doesn't really matter now that I think about it. It was also developed by a completely different team at Accolade than the first game was. Instead of Bubsy's original creator, Michael Berlin, the game was designed by Cindy Kirkpatrick. In fact, Berlin wasn't involved in this game at all. It's also worth noting that by this point, a pilot for a Bubsy cartoon series had aired on TV, and it—
what could possibly go wrong?
Sucked. But a few of the characters from that pilot made their way into the game. Bubsy II was released on October 15th, 1994 for the SNES and Genesis like the previous game, but it also received a Game Boy port later on. Like before, it got positive reception at the time, but that praise has since dwindled. Even Michael Berlin said this game pretty much killed the franchise, if only.
If you saw my review of the first Bubsy game, you know I didn't think too highly of it, and that's putting it generously. But hey, the sequel's bound to be better, right? I mean, at the very least, there's no way it could possibly be worse than— get away from me! Well, I am playing the SNES version of this game instead of the Genesis version, so who knows? That might improve things a bit. But before I start playing, I feel like I should address the elephant in the room. Seymour, you are dismissed.
Oh, thank God, finally. I've been standing here for like 6 hours.
Alright, let's be serious for a sec. In March of this past year, Michael Berlin, the original creator of Bubsy, passed away. This is a very sad thing that happened, and my condolences go out to his friends and family. I'm bringing this up because I want to make it clear I am not trying to speak ill of the dead. I'm sure he was a wonderful person, and it's very sad that he's gone. Any negative things I say about this game or any other game in the series are directed towards the games themselves, and not Michael Berlin as a person. I know some people think that goes without saying, and he wasn't involved with this game as much as the other ones, but I still felt like I should address it, and this way I don't have to repeat myself in the future. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the actual game.
Bubsy and his friend Arnold the Armadillo discover that a new theme park is opening up. Fearing that it'll be too crowded, they take Bubsy's twin relatives to sneak into it before it opens. When they sneak in, though, they discover the owner is a corrupt business pig named Oinker P. Ham, who's using a device to steal the world's history and convert it into his park. The twins get separated, so Bubsy and Arnold decide to save them and shut down the park. The story is pretty stupid, but it has less terrible puns than the first one, so that makes it an improvement. Right off the bat, you're free to choose between the east wing of the park or the west wing, and I guess I'll pick east. Unlike previously, you're taken to a stage select screen, so you can play the levels in any order you want. We have 5 stages to choose from, so I guess I'll just pick this castle. That looks kinda neat. Graphically speaking, the game is about on par with before, which is fine by me, since the visuals were one of the few decent things about the last game. It's colorful, varied, and Bubsy is once again very well animated. In fact, I think there's even more animations in this game. And best of all, they got rid of his perf face, so we're really off to a great start. But the soundtrack has gotten a downgrade. It wasn't really great in the original, but here it's much worse. Most of the songs are really generic, and some are just outright bad. But the weirdest thing is that sometimes the song will just randomly change mid-level, and I have no idea why.
The gameplay is pretty much the same as before, but it's been slightly expanded and drastically improved in at least one area.
This game actually fixed the first one's biggest issue. You no longer die in just one hit. Thank God. This time, Bubsy can take 3 or 4 hits from enemies, and you can find these bandages that restore your health. You don't actually have a life bar though, the only indicator is this face in the corner that changes when you take 1 hit, but after that it doesn't change until you die. So it can be a little confusing knowing how many hits you have left, but you still have more than 1, so I'll take it. Instead of yarn balls for this game, we have marbles, and they literally do the exact same thing, even down to needing 500 for an extra life. And speaking of lives, I think they decided they were being a little too fair with the extra hit points, so your default life count was changed from 9 to only 3. But thankfully it's much easier to get lives in this game, partially because you're not dying as often, and partially thanks to your new items. Bubsy has an arsenal of items he can use, and most of them are pretty helpful. There's the Nerf gun, yes they actually made a deal with Nerf for this game, which kills enemies immediately and leaves behind these cat tokens, the bomb, which kills all enemies around you, the portable hole, which brings you back to the stage select, I don't see how that's useful, and the dive suit, which is worthless. Its only purpose is to let you go in water to access these bonus levels. But other than that, your jumping becomes incredibly limited, it doesn't give you any extra hit points, and you walk so slow. And the worst thing about it is that this part here glitched, so I was permanently stuck in it. I had to reset the game just to get rid of it, like before the stage ends when you find a giant orb. But once you beat it, you're taken to this little shop where you can exchange items and those cat tokens I mentioned earlier. Goodbye dive suits. And yeah, I'll get rid of the portable holes too. Every item in here can also be found in the level, so I would highly recommend prioritizing extra lives. This game controls a lot better than the first one. It's still kinda floaty, but it's nowhere near as slippery or awkward as the previous game was. And thankfully, it keeps the mechanic of enemies staying permanently dead, even after you die. You can even jump on projectiles in this game, although there's still fall damage, so you need to glide almost everywhere.
But surprisingly, this game had some bonus levels. Ugh, I don't even like this stuff.
There's the water things I mentioned, where you have to move around underwater while grabbing bubbles, and if you go in certain doors, they can take you to one of 2 minigames. The most common one is the frogapult, where you have to launch frogs at targets. For every 5 targets you hit, you get an extra life. You have unlimited shots, but you're under a very small time limit, and I swear it is nearly impossible to hit these moving boats. You'll also find these armadillo stages, where you have to use fans to roll Arnold through a moving car while grabbing things. It can be pretty annoying. Yeah, it's fair to say the frogapult is the best one, and it's still not that great. The game even adds a co-op mode, where a second player can control one of Bubsy's relatives to shoot bananas and kill enemies, and I have no idea what these Grand Tour and playing for points things are. As far as I can tell, the game plays the same. This game sort of has the same philosophy as the first game of trying to combine speed with dense platforming, but it's a lot more downplayed since there are barely any areas you can gather speed in unless you're just rushing through everything. And even then, that's only possible in certain levels.
Now from all this, I'm sure it sounds like the game is actually pretty decent, but sadly, that is not the case, because while I fixed a couple of problems with the first one, it has a slew of other ones.
Like previously, the camera is way too close to Bubsy, so enemies and obstacles can still come out of nowhere. You do have multiple hit points, but it's still insanely annoying and leads to many unfair deaths. Plus, that only really applies to the enemies. There are a bunch of obstacles that kill you instantly, and some of them are ridiculous. The standard bombless pits aren't a big deal. Fire and spikes killing you makes sense, but it can be really hard to avoid some of them. There's these anchors and pointy things that kill you, and I have no idea how that's supposed to work. Water that's very easy to land in due to you constantly making leaps of faith. Pound symbols? Why the hell do those kill me? Alright, just gonna jump on this block. Oh, nope, that's a trap. Just gotta keep moving, and wait, what? What? What?
How is that fair? Seriously, how the f*** was that fair?
But hands down, the worst thing about this game is so many of these levels never f***ing end. A decent chunk of them are really non-linear, and it's not always clear where you're supposed to be going. Sure, a lot of them have arrows, but ones that make you go in doors seem to move you all over the place, so it's insanely easy to wind up going in circles. Plus, the game can be kinda stingy with its checkpoints, and unlike the last game, there is no password system, and there's still no continues. So you not only have to beat the game in one sitting, but if you get a game over, you have to start the whole f***ing thing all over again. Now, you are free to select any level you want to practice the harder ones, but it still gets pretty tedious, especially since they feel pretty similar aside from a few things. The castle sends you to a fantasy level where everything is in a forest, the pirate flag sends you to space,
Did I skip a page?
where gravity is low so you jump really high. This level is filled with instant kill traps and has a bunch of dead ends thanks to these weird platform things. There's also a couple of moments where you're placed in a spaceship and the game becomes a 2D shooter because if Super Mario Land can do it, why not Bubsy? You shoot Nerf balls and you can drop marbles which act as bombs. This giant drum leads to probably the most creative level because the whole thing is made up of musical instruments. The plane takes you to a sky level, which is the same as the spaceship segments, only they last the entire level. And finally is the Sphinx that sends you to a pyramid level, which is just bullshit. It's insanely confusing to navigate and lasts an eternity because of it. Son of a b****. You know what? I'm going to try the West Wing. Maybe those levels will be easier. These are the exact same level themes as before. The designs are slightly different, but they still feel exactly the same. Beating all 5 levels opens the boss door, which lets you fight a boss, and I put that term in quotation marks. It's just 5 enemies you see in each of the levels popping in and out of these doors. You just have to avoid their shots and jump on them 4 times each. Once you kill them all, you go up to the second floor. These are the same things. Yet the entire game only has 5 level themes. So it's basically the same as the first game, only it spreads them out instead of having you play each theme one at a time, which is kinda lame since you think there's gonna be more variety than there actually is.
Not to mention you don't have to beat both wings in order to beat the game. You pick one at the start, and that's the one you're stuck with until you get a game over, and while the levels are different, the boss fights are exactly the same.
And oh my god, the further you go, the more aggravating these levels get. Some of these level designs are just plain shit, since it's insanely easy to get lost, which leads to you losing most of your lives. Especially with this plane level that makes you smack into a wall. What the fuck am I supposed to do here? There is no exit! This is complete and utter bullshit! Oh. I can turn around by hitting the shoulder button.
Well, this would have been good to know earlier.
These levels also amplify the screen crunch issue because of how many enemies shoot you from off-screen. But you can't shoot them when they're off-screen, that would be too unfair. You have to scroll the screen over in order to hit them. And of course, this game didn't fix the worst issue of the last one, the shitty main character. Bubsy is still insufferable in this game. He's not as bad as previously due to the lack of perface, but he's still completely unlikable. He still says some stupid quip every time you enter a level and almost every time you die. But instead of having specific lines for each level, he just has a handful of generic ones he cycles through, and you'll hear most of them before you're even halfway done.
Another swine mess. Is the writer's strike over yet? Oh, I think I broke something. Remember, I am a trained professional. I'll be back. Oh, nuts! Bye-bye. Is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house?
And apparently I'm not alone in hating this furball piece of shit, because according to an interview with Michael Berlin, the lead designer of the game, Cindy Kirkpatrick, hated Bubsy so much she stabbed a plushie of him with a pencil and hanged it by the neck in the company's office. Well, this is my new favorite piece of video game trivia.
Well, it took a while, but I finally managed to beat the second floor. And the boss fight is, you gotta be f***ing kidding me. This is literally the exact same thing, only they take 6 hits instead of 4. Now on to the third and final floor, which of course has the exact same level themes, only they're scattered all over the place because that's fun, isn't it? These levels all suck. They go on for ages and have so many bullshit parts. And the worst thing about this floor is that the spots send you to the level automatically, where the other ones you have to hit a button in order to select it. And if you stand on a spot for a level you've already beaten, you have to play through it again. Oh, so that's what the portable holes are for.
Well, this would have been good to know earlier.
Couldn't you have just given me the option to exit on the pause menu? Or here's a better idea, don't automatically send me to a level I've already beaten. Okay, that sucked, but I got through again, and now I'm just gonna jump to get away from the spot. Wait, no, that sends me to the level 2, no!
Fuck this game.
If you can actually make it through these levels, you arrive at the final boss. And thank God it's actually something different, but it still blows. It's Oinker P. Ham in a giant robot suit that shoots lasers and drops these coin things. He bounces around and you have to jump on his head, but he can still hurt you when he goes up, even if you're above him. This fight is insanely annoying because he takes like 30 hits to kill. When you finally get him, his suit is destroyed and Bubsy and friends lock him up. And that's about it. This game has no credits.
Bubsy 2 is, oh, come on. Bubsy 2 is better than the first game, but it still stinks. The levels go on for way too long, and the constant off-screen enemies are a huge pain. When the game wasn't pissing me off, it was just freaking boring. Don't play this game, it's not worth it, and I definitely don't consider it a substantial apology for faulty bread. But hey, at least the game itself doesn't have any side effects.
This just in, the video game that the bread company provided as an apology also includes a mysterious substance. The side effects of this substance include dizziness, sweating, insomnia, severe vomiting, chest pain, and randomly waking up in the dollar store.
How did I get here?